Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers on the East Coast of the United States of America. Thank you for joining us tonight in Canada. Appreciate you joining us at this hour. Folks, we got a lot to talk about tonight. I have two very, very special guests who will be coming on. One guest will be talking to you about his involvement with the freedom movement in Canada. He's a former Ontario provincial police officer. We'll be speaking to him, and also we'll be speaking to a gentleman who will give us a follow-up report on the possible charges brought against Trudeau and his government at The Hague. But first, I'd like to share this with you. The other night, we had shared with the public that we were going to send anyone at no cost this certificate. And this certificate here is still available to you at no cost. It is a certificate that you will be able to give your children and grandchildren to show them that you were involved in your time in the fight for freedom and liberty. We have found that throughout history, a lot is not written about. And what is not written about is the fact that the public, like you, who have become involved in fights for freedom and liberty, are never talked about. And one day, your children and grandchildren are going to ask the question, well, what did you do in your time in that fight for freedom and liberty? Well, you're going to have a certificate. It's right here, folks, right here. We're going to send it to you at no cost, and you'll be able to give this to your children and grandchildren in future years to come. Now, here's the issue. When we talked about this the other night, within the past 48 hours, we have exceeded 1,000 requests. And all 1,000 people are going to get this certificate. It may take a little time for some of you to get it, but we made a commitment, and we're going to send 1,000, and I'm sure a lot more people this certificate within the next few weeks. But one problem we've run into, folks, we've asked people to email us through our website, which they have, but a few hundred sent us a request without their addresses. And obviously, we can't mail them to you. So if you remember, or if you could find out if you did not send us your address, by all means, please resend your request so that we can mail these out to you. We got a couple of hundred requests with just emails, and obviously we want to mail these to you. So by all means, and it says this, Campaign for America. It has the American and Canadian flag on it. It says, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And then it says, your name is awarded this certificate of achievement for your commitment and dedication to the cause of preserving freedom and liberty in the United States of America and Canada. Let freedom ring. I sign it. It's going to be dated. It'll be yours forever. Yours to frame, yours to file, and yours to show your children moving forward. All right, folks, I'm going to introduce you a young man who has certainly done a lot, I understand, in Canada with regard to the fight for freedom and liberty. And he is a former law enforcement officer with the Ontario Provincial Police, 32 years experience. Boy, that's a very well-experienced individual in emergency management, including working with the emergency response team deployment and forensic reconstruction. Now, that is a very bright fellow when it comes to that. He is the Canadian coordinator for Police for Freedom, and he's also actively speaking on charter and human rights and the forces working against our freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Vincent Geertjes, and I probably messed it up, Vince, but please welcome to Campaign for America.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, Lieutenant Rogers. Thanks for having me on your program.
Well, Vince, could you share with us, we have a large, obviously, Canadian audience and a large American audience and people from all over the planet watching. Could you share with us what you have been involved with, how you got involved with this, and the added ingredient to your role in this is being a former law enforcement officer. So why don't we start with that? You and I have something in common. I was 38 years in law enforcement. You're 32 years in law enforcement. You're certainly more experienced than me in emergency response, deployment, and forensic reconstruction. But how did you feel when you saw those officers in Canada committing acts of vandalism, if you will, breaking windows on trucks a half a mile away, some of them really roughing people up? To me, not in all cases. I think, we always honor our cops and we support them, but some of these cases were very troubling. So I'm sure people want to hear from you what your perspective is on that. All right, stand by, folks. We are having some communication problems, and we're going to get Vince right back. So we're doing this via phone again. Vince, it looks, do you have me? Do you hear me now, Vince? All right, folks. We have run into a communication problem with Vince. So this is what happens on live television. Yeah, now our calls are failing. We had this pretty well wrapped up. So stand by with me, folks. Seems like in certain parts of Canada, we seem to be running into some problems. Let's see. We're going to go here. We're going to go here. And we're going to go here. Stand by, folks. We're trying to get. All right, Vince. Boy, I have no idea what that is, folks. We got an Andy Griffith Show theme. Vince, are you there? All right, mute your computer, Vince, and let's get back on the phone, okay? And if it goes out, I don't know what we do next. Vince, there's a lot of feedback and interference. Are you on mute? Your computer?
Yep, we're good.
All right, good. All right, Vince, did you get my questions with regard to, as a law enforcement officer, what your reaction is to the way the police handle themselves?
Well, ever since the COVID measures began, I found it very difficult to see how things were rolling out in this particular situation in our country. I became very involved in the fall of 2020 when I witnessed 200 plus police officers shut down a brisket barbecue restaurant to essentially put the owner out of business, while other establishments like cannabis shops, liquor stores, Costco's, Walmart's remained open. And I found it quite a travesty of justice and a violation of business owners' rights. And then I started to see the situation unfolding where churches were being demanded to lock down. And as a result of those lockdown measures, the right to religious worship was taken away from people. That is how I got into this situation. I don't have a background in the medical field, but I have a background in the investigative field and emergency management. In Canada, both in the provinces and with the federal government, we have a number of emergency response plans put in place for any type of emergency that would happen. In this case, when the pandemic came along, all of the emergency planning that was put in place was completely ignored, and the government promises and
Okay, folks, we lost Vince again, and I've got to tell you, this is it's frustrating and it is unusual. Vince, do you hear me? Put your thumbs up.
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right. Now we hear you again. For some reason, this is going in and out, but let's do the best we could. Folks, at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to give you a couple of sites that you could go to and listen to us live. Rumble is one, CloudHub's another, because I don't know how long we're going to be lasting on Facebook. I guess they see the numbers of people watching. They don't like what we're doing, but I'm not talking about any conspiracy theories, but it is getting a little frustrating and unusual that we're on. Monday nights are okay with the U.S. edition, but Thursday nights, some of the areas of the Canadian edition are getting a little upset. So, okay. So Vince, you're back with me, correct?
I am, correct.
Okay.
If there are conspiracies, I've investigated a number of those. There's also collusion and there's collaboration, and I'm not sure exactly which categories we're going to be getting into over the course of our conversation, but we may touch on all three.
All right, so let's talk about this. This category is very important. You brought up the freedom of religion issue, the freedom of speech issue, and we're working very hard to address that. But getting back to the well, a couple of things. Let's talk about C11 since we're getting some sort of communication problems here. That's the, as you know, the bill where Trudeau wants to pretty much monitor everything coming into the country and out of the country via communications. Let's talk about that. Have you learned anything, any updates on that particular situation?
Well, I believe that's in the Senate at this time to be voted upon. But that is a very, very concerning bill. We've seen nothing but censorship across all of our media in this country. And it is very, very concerning that Canadians will no longer have the ability to have a free voice and free speech should this bill pass.
Now, we have concluded here, at least with Campaign for America, and we're talking to our legislatures about that the actions of the Trudeau government have become a national security threat to the United States. Already we have one state, Ohio, who has introduced a resolution recommending that the Trudeau government be put on the religious watch list. We're actually looking for, after we get through with our Project Maple Leaf program, which is a program where we're going to educate our lawmakers about what's going on there, where we're looking for sanctions against the Trudeau government. Because what he is doing is truly violating, I mean, everything in our Constitution, which I know doesn't count in Canada, but very similar to our Constitution is your Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So when it comes to communication, there should be open access. The government should not be putting what I call the 21st century Berlin Wall up between the world and the Trudeau government, which leads me to this. We know in America that there's a tremendous influence of the Chinese Communist Party. They're in our institutions, whether it be political, educational, religious, etc. How far do you believe the CCP is involved in influencing your prime minister and your government?
I don't think it takes much to influence our prime minister. I think he is somebody who is very easily influenced. Some people don't want to talk about conspiracy issues, but I like to use the term planets aligning and how often do our planets align in our universe and our galaxy. Quite often, people might misunderstand that the 8 planets in our galaxy, they actually never align. Sometimes we get 5 planets aligned, but what are the chances of getting all 8 of them to align? It's next to impossible. Yet, when we look at the Western nations, the strongest Western nations, and let's just use 8 of them, and I'm going to say 8 of them because there are 8 planets in our galaxy that never seem to align. How is it that these 8 most powerful Western nations on our planet seem to be very aligned in terms of problems with mass immigration, problems with woke Marxist ideology, problems with very questionable leadership, the lockdown strategies, the censorship of the media that we have, the fact that our governments only want to create a CBDC digital currency within the banking system, and that they're all following really international consortium rollout as far as this pandemic has gone, which challenges all of our rights between the CDC, the WHO, the WEF, and so on. So I don't think it takes much for a prime minister to be influenced by outside agencies, and I don't believe he's necessarily looking after the best interests of Canadians.
I have gotten a lot of emails and messages from the Canadian citizens regarding the new leader of the Conservative Party. We don't know much about him. Perhaps can you share with us, maybe give us an education on who he is, what he is, what is his background, and what you expect as a Canadian citizen from him?
Certainly, this new Conservative Party leadership race was something that a lot of people in the freedom movement were watching very closely, because we certainly do need substantial change in our government. And we're just very cautious that we don't want to change one leader that is quite tyrannical to the people of this country for another one. And I can tell you from all the homework that I've done, our new Conservative Party leader, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, seems to be a very straight shooter. He seems to be very aware of the issues that we're facing. He's aware of the problems associated with the World Economic Forum and has called that out. He has constantly been calling out our Prime Minister. He's acted great as an opposition voice against the Liberal
Now, your conservative candidates who are in Parliament, I assume, will they be running the same during the same time Pierre's going to be running for office, or is that a different election?
Well, this election that just came up was to elect the leader of the Conservative Party. We no longer had a leader. There was a vote of non-confidence for the last leader. We currently needed to move in a leader, and the way the system works in our country is in order to be in a position to vote for the leader of a particular party, you need to have a membership in that party. And in this current election, there were more memberships that were taken out in this Conservative Party leadership race than in any other party at any other time in Canada. A lot of people have taken interest in this race.
I understand he got 68% of the vote or more. Is that a fact?
Yeah, and that's quite rare that in the voting procedure that takes place in this country for a leader, it's a little difficult to explain and rather complex, but for him to get voted with majority vote on the first ballot is very honorable for him, and it speaks very highly of the fact that a lot of Canadians put their faith in him as the leader of that party.
Sounds like a mandate from the public to make a change. Now, of course, we do hear from some people who are allies, if you will, supporters of Trudeau. We do hear from some of them, and by some of the, and not all of them are vicious, nasty emails, all right? So some of them are articulate, but through all the information and some of the messages I've received, I detect that they're very, very worried, that they're very concerned that Trudeau's going to be out of a job and they will be out of power. So it goes to show me that the Canadian people have done a superb job in getting the word out with regard to the Trudeau government. And I will also share this with you, Vince, that based on what all of us have done here in the United States with regard to Canada, as well as the Canadian people. So it's not just, it's a team effort, okay? By informing members of the European Union, we do know Christine Anderson is one of the ones who are fighting, but she's got a whole lot of support behind her that a lot of people don't know. I've spoken to some congressional leaders here, some state leaders here, and others. As public awareness globally begins to bear fruit, that pressure is coming upon the Trudeau government. And here's what I hope to see, and maybe you could weigh in on this. You know, I've always believed that when the ship is sinking, usually, you know, the most courageous captain will stay on his ship until the crew is saved. But we're not dealing with courageous people when you talk about Justin Trudeau or even a Joe Biden. They will let the ship sink with everybody on it while they were the first ones to jump off. So I've shared with some of your members of parliament, as well as some of the congressional members here, that when that ship begins to sink, you better stand up and you better think about your own survival and forget about holding on to Trudeau or Biden, because that ship's going down with them. Now, do you sense or feel the same maybe quiet reaction from some of the opposition in your country, that either they're remaining very quiet or they're distancing themselves from Trudeau? I mean, it's obvious what's happened here. The Democrats know they're getting wiped out in 56 days. They know that. And they know it so much is that some of them, when they're asked a question on the press, well, do you support Joe Biden's economic policy? And when they said, well, who's Joe Biden? Well, you know what? It tells a story. So do you feel that there's more opposition against Trudeau, even within his own party, than what is being publicized?
Well, there certainly are a number of individuals, members of federal parliament, we call them MPs, that are pushing back, but they're doing it secretly, and they are concerned about what is going in the Liberal government. Okay,
we lost them again, folks. Okay, we lost you again, Vince. It seemed like it's fading in and out. Okay, pretty frustrating, ain't it, Vince? So, folks, bear with us. I don't know if we're going to get Vince back, but you know, I've shared. I've asked him some questions. Well, now we lost him, so we're going to see if we can get him back, and we're going to have him on a broadcast maybe we're going to start doing these via. Well, here's the phone. It's ringing. Let's see if Vince picks up.
Here.
Yeah, here we go, Vince. That's okay. We're getting there. All right. We adjust. We adapt. They're never going to defeat us. They're not going to shut us down or shut us off. So go ahead, Vince. I'm glad we can laugh about it.
Correct.
All right. So we're talking about the Trudeau government and the undercurrent, what he may be facing in his own party.
Yeah. Now, can you hear me okay?
Excellent.
Great. Okay, so you need to understand this leadership race that we just had was to elect the leader of the opposition party. The Conservatives are the opposition. And the only reason the Liberals are really running the show is because they've teamed up with another party called the New Democratic Party, and they're working in conjunction with one another. The actual election for the next federal election that comes up is not for 2 more years. So a lot can happen in 2 years. But currently, our Conservative Party has...
Okay, we lost Vince again. All right, Vince, stand by, okay? It seems like people are telling us the sound is not good. So what I'm going to do, Vince... There you go. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I can still hear you. Okay.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Anything can happen within the next 2 years, but I believe with the new leader that we have in our opposition party, we will start to see a lot of pushback. And I believe that more conservative members will come around to the way of thinking of their new leader.
With regard to morale, there's been a lot of talk about the morale of the military, morale of the police. We certainly want people to always support their police, but as what the FBI in America did to law enforcement, which totally, really, the American people have lost confidence in our federal law enforcement agencies, the Department of Justice and the FBI, who, by the way, I worked with them for many years. I'm saddened to see what's happened. The local police, do you find that a lot of them are disgusted with the government? And obviously they have to follow their orders, and they took an oath. And in the military, we've been told obey your orders and then question them later. How do you feel the troops are out there feeling, the police and the military?
Yeah, the police that I've spoken to are really not impressed whatsoever with our Prime Minister. They're not even impressed with the Premier of Ontario. I can't speak for the other provinces, but we have a real problem in politics, and that is with the quality of leadership. We have a problem of accountability, and we have a problem of transparency.
So, Vince, before we wrap up this segment, we're going to have you back on when we find a way to get around this interference. Would you like to say anything else? Is there anything that we didn't touch upon that you would like to speak to the people about a bit?
Well, we've spoken quite a bit about the politics of the situation and the problems with freedom. I will touch upon the Emergency Measures Act that was invoked at the time of the truckers' convoy. I was in Ottawa at that time, and I can tell you it was a completely peaceful, wonderful event that was taking place, and that our government had absolutely no rationale whatsoever in invoking the Emergency Measures Act and disrupting and shutting down a very peaceful protest that was taking place in Ottawa. Now there's an inquiry taking place, which is required by law, and our government, neither our government nor the RCMP, which is our federal police agency, can explain why they seized or froze people's bank accounts and arrested people and arrested peaceful protesters and shut down a peaceful protest. It's becoming a big embarrassment for our government, and I believe that the truth will prevail. But in answer to this question that we've been discussing when it comes to freedoms and it being a political issue, quite frankly, I'm not sure a political solution is what's going to fix the spiritual problem. And I think, God is going to get us through this. I believe that. And it's something that we need to prepare for.
I want to follow up on what you just said. You're absolutely right. God will see us through this. William Wilberforce, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he was a member of the British Parliament back in the, I think, late 1600s or 1700s. And And he had a problem where he, as a Christian, wanted to put an end to slavery in Great Britain. And of course, at that time, slave ownership, slave trading was the backbone of the British economy. But he, through his faith, through his prayers, through his perseverance, he was able to actually get, after I think it took him 3 years to get to Parliament to actually shut down the slave trade. And he attributes that to a lot of prayer, through the Holy Spirit putting people in his path, including the Prime Minister at that time, to help him get the legislation passed. And you know what he did, Vince, that touched me? He was able to change the behavior of some of the members of Parliament. The behavior of being those who really didn't give a darn about the people and, just partying and doing whatever they did, whatever these politicians do. And through prayer and through sitting with them and talking with them one-on-one, he got enough votes after 3 years of an intense, bitter fight in his Parliament. And then I believe it was a week after he finally got it passed, he had passed away. So God had a mission for him, and he completed it. And you're right. Without that spiritual element, we're dead.
Absolutely. We are still in a tyrannical situation in this country. We still have people in jail who were involved in protests. We have numerous cases of persecution against pastors, against churches across the country. And this is something that I never believed I would ever see or experience in my lifetime. So do we need help right now? Absolutely. And we need to get the word out. Our media is completely subverted and is bought and paid for. We have nothing but propaganda being broadcast in this country. We do have an agency called Rebel Media that is quite effectively reporting the other side of the story, and quite accurate, I might add. But it's not enough. We need more voices like yours, and we need to get the word across to your members in the United States that can offer help in whatever way you can extend that. So by putting pressure on our government is done, I believe will be effective as well. But this is a fight I believe is not over, and I don't think we've seen the worst of it yet.
Well, help is certainly there, and more is on the way. I could tell you that, again, Project Maple Leaf is a research project we put together about a year ago. The first drafts of our executive summaries that are going to go to the Congress, or we're going to actually have a meeting next week about it. In addition to that, we have rallied and in the process of rallying church pastors in this country to support the pastors in Canada with regards to what they're facing. And they're starting to respond, and I'm thankful for that. It's all about education and public awareness. But again, when we let our lawmakers know that, look, at our national security is in danger here, not only on the southern border, but on the northern border. And they're beginning to ask questions now, which is good. And people like you coming on the air and helping bring some clarity to what's going on is certainly helpful. Well, Vince, that's it. I thank you for bearing with us. And we're going to have you back on, and hopefully we won't have these technical problems. But now, if you want to watch, I'll keep you in the little cube here, because certain things you said with regard to human rights, I've got to tell you, we're going to have a guest on now that's on the front lines of bringing charges against the Canadian government, Trudeau, to The Hague. And I've looked at some of their material. It's just fascinating what they've done. So I'll keep you on, all right? I'll switch you off. We won't be able to see you, but you can see us, okay? And thanks a lot, Vince. I salute you for your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So now we have, and we hope that our what we're doing is going to be very, very audible here. Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And can you hear me?
Yes, there's a bit of delay, but I'll settle for that at this point. So, all right. So, Alan Nicholson, Alan, you have been in the forefront of fighting for freedom and liberty in all kinds of areas. You and your wife have taken a lot of time, a lot of effort in trying to get your government back into the hands of the people. So now tell us about what's going on with The Hague, and then where you want to go in the next few weeks.
Okay. Well, real quick, we are not associated or in any way the people who have created the inquiry. But what we are trying to get the message out to the English Canadians, Eastern Canada, and the Maritimes, and Western Canada, and because SOS Quebec is a creator of that inquiry, and they've sent the off to The Hague. The Hague has sent a. They've sent a what's the word I'm looking for? They've not a request, but they've sent the word.
I believe
is,
that they've sent the request to The Hague to investigate
yes,
the evidence that you guys had put together.
yes, and The Hague has a file case number, so they have received it. The date for The Hague is that they have requested that since the inquiry is made on behalf of Canada, they want 250,000 signatures up. Exactly, we the people. Province of Quebec, SOS Quebec, has gone out on the roads, on the street, to get signatures. And they've collected over 100,000 signatures right now.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So you need at least another maybe 200,000 to make sure that the 250,000 qualifies for the petition. Now, I'm getting messages here that the sound is breaking up. I've got to tell you, folks, I haven't, in the couple of years we've been on Thursday nights, haven't run into this problem. But we're certainly going to rectify it, hopefully by next week. But all right, so go ahead. We'll do the best we could, Alan, and we'll.
Not a problem.
I think what we'll do, maybe to conquer some of this, is we'll record some of this and then put it on through the other sites. But you go right ahead.
Okay. I'm here as a concerned citizen, calling out audience to please go to my Facebook page, which is Alan Nicholson. Now, on one page, you could collect up to 15 signatures. If we have a few thousand people who collect 15 signatures, just one page, get to where we got to go.
Okay, now I'm getting a lot of reaction. Okay, people want to know where to sign it. So if you could once again, a couple of times, give your page where they could actually get the petition to sign. Go ahead, Alan.
They could get it from, I will, after this evening, after our broadcast, your broadcast, it on my personal Facebook page, and they could go there and they'd be able to hit and just get 15 signatures. Now, the other thing that they know is they would like to have 100 living witnesses. The witnesses are anybody who has had a depression or has a depression, who has secondary effects from the they would also like to have anybody who's elderly in the nursing homes, because that's basically is an inquiry for the 16,000 elderly that passed away in nursing homes across Canada. In the province of Quebec alone, there's 6,800 that passed away in the nursing homes.
Alan, I'm going to do this here, okay? Alan Nicholson. People are asking me how to spell your name, so we just put it up. And is that your Nicholson? Alan Nicholson.
Yes.
Okay. And that's your Facebook page?
That's my Facebook page.
Okay. Now, here's what we're finding out with our communications. People can hear me loud and clear. And for some reason, the communication coming out of Canada seems to be the one that's breaking up, which is rather unusual. But we'll check this out. Now, all right. So, Alan, so the key now is to get 250,000 signatures.
Yes.
Okay.
And 100 witnesses.
Oh, and I'm glad you said living witnesses, because in the United States we have a lot of dead people voting. So that means anybody who has the idea that they're going to go to a cemetery and put somebody's name on there and sign it, well, you're going to end up going to jail. Okay, so you see, we all have the same issues, right, in all our countries, but this is an incredible undertaking to go to The Hague. But they actually, and I've got the copy of the letter where they actually stated that they received the letter, and they're going to entertain this.
They'll entertain it with the 250,000 signatures, the 100 witnesses. To tell you that myself, my wife, and my son have signed, because we do have impression from everything that's gone on, being forced to be injected like so that is the type of witnesses that we're looking for, and all those documents are available. I'll make a Facebook page, and once you've printed out 15 signatures, at the bottom of the page is a P.O. box.
All right, Alan, it looks like we lost your audio, and shortly in America here, we're going to lose our minds over this. This issue, I tell you, folks. But you got some brave people there. You got Vincent, you got Alan, and Alan, we're gonna start to wrap things up. We're running out of time. I'm gonna have you on again as soon as we straighten some things out. But let's do this again. Tell us, which is important, your Facebook page again, if we can hear you.
Yes, my Facebook page is.
All right, we lost some folks. We lost his audio, but Alan Nicholson, folks, we posted it, and what we'll do, folks, we'll get it up there for you. Okay, we'll get it up there for you on our one of our Facebook pages. And well, Alan, thank you very much. Thanks to you and your wife and all of those who are fighting the good fight of faith. And I'll tell you, it's been a real job tonight, boy. But thank you. Thanks so much for joining us. And Vince, I thank you. Stand by, folks. We'll be back with Alan in the near future, as well as Vince. Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Oh, boy, folks, isn't this something? I mean, this is really incredible. Never ran into this problem, but, every problem could be overcome. I'm going to, again, ask you to go to our website. All right. And there is I believe there's a bar there that will let you know where our broadcast platforms are. We've got a number of them on YouTube, on Rumble, on Cloud Hub. We'll figure all this out. We've been preparing this for a long time, but we'll figure all this out. Now, folks, here's something again that, obviously the part I don't like, but you see what's happening? We have expanded so much, and we're growing so much that we're having some problems now with communicating back and forth. I'm not saying that it is on purpose. It could certainly be something as innocent as the area of Canada. Some of these broadcasts are coming in, but saying that we do want to upgrade our equipment. We want to be able to stay on the air. We are not government funded. We have no companies funding us. It's all funded by the people. And we have been doing such a job, meaning you and us here in the United States, that we're finally breaking through to our government leaders to take some action at the appropriate time, and also, which I believe is very important, to get the pastors rallied here. So I'll tell you, folks, there's it to donate. You go to campaignforamerica.com. Last week, I said even $2, $3, $5 would be great. And guess what? A load of people did that. I've always said pay your bills first. Do what you got to do to take care of your family. And then if you have a few extra that you can contribute, by all means, we're going to ask you to do that. These certificates, we think and we really believe that it was very, very important that you have these in your hands for the rest of your life because your children are going to ask you one day what you did. And that's why we don't charge, folks. We don't charge for this stuff because this is part of our mission. I can't even find the certificate. Oh, here it is. Because this is part of our mission, folks, to make sure that people don't forget. And there's going to be no, the only thing you're going to find in the envelope would be folded up like this. Now, we send it like this because this costs about $1.80 to mail. It's triple if we mailed it in a big envelope, which we wanted to do. But you know what? I'm sure you can unfold it and frame it. But it's pretty nice. But it's something that is of historical significance to you and your children. And to me, I mean, what more than that when you're kind of in your 80s or 90s and your children have their children around and you're going to be asked, well, what did you do? And of course, they're going to say, well, prove it, because I didn't read anything in the history books about it. Well, you're going to have that. We thought that would be nice. So I'm going to read to you the letter that I sent to everyone that you will get if you want the certificate. And again, campaignforamerica.com, not only for your contribution, if you can, but more importantly to me, the certificate. Make sure, folks, you put your address in there. But here's the letter, folks, and you'll get this personally from me. Dear Canadian and American Patriot. Why Canadian American? Well, now we're in this together, folks. Please accept the certificate as a memory that you can share with your children and grandchildren in the many years to come, letting them know that you are part of history by supporting the cause of freedom and liberty through prayer and other means of support at a time when your country needed you. Quite often, those who write history forget those who ran the race and fought the good fight of faith. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you will not be forgotten. And this certificate is the evidence that in our time, you stood strong and you secured for your children 2 non-negotiable gifts from who? From God Almighty, the gifts of freedom and liberty. Frame it, keep it, cherish it, and many years from now, pass it down to the future generations of your family as a reminder to never give up and always let freedom ring. That's for you. That's for your children and your grandchildren for the rest of your lives. Now, over the next month or so, and as long as we could do it, we launched our first 2 minutes with Lieutenant Rogers, our first radio broadcast that we posted tonight. It's on Facebook, it's on Rumble, it's on all our social media platforms. I'd urge you to listen to it. We have these broadcasts that are being put together to let you know you're not alone. We're encouraging you. We mean what we say, and we say what we mean. And we think it's time that leaders stand up and truly start to be leaders and encourage the people and let the people know that they are succeeding in their fight for freedom and liberty, because we are. And that at the end of the day, we're all going to sit back one day and we're going to look up at the sky. We're going to say, thank you, Lord, because today I can still let freedom ring. Thank you for joining us tonight. As tough as it was, we made it. All right. And we'll see you on Monday night. By the way, Monday night in Tonight for America, if all goes well, it'll either be this Monday night or the week after that. We have a situation where a 90-year-old woman here in the United States, she was ill. She had some difficulties. She didn't pay the taxes on her house. Apparently, there was a lien taken out on the house. Somebody bought the lien, and now they're telling her she's got to leave. 90 years old, lived in her home for 60 years. Her husband died many years ago. She's alone, and she is being told she got to leave her home. Well, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're going to have her son, hopefully, on Monday night. A tragic story, but an inspirational story, because when you hear what the son wants to do and what we're going to do to help him, keep in mind that we're all in this together, and there's always a God above who said he will never leave us nor forsake us. All right, folks, thanks a lot. Again, thank you for sticking with us. It's been a tough night, but we made it. And remember, we certainly could use your help. www.campaign4america.com. That's where you can make a contribution. And also, folks, people have asked me if they could send checks to us. Yes, you can. So if you need our address, email us, and we'll get you the address, okay? And again, you want that certificate, we're going to need your full name and your address so we can mail it to you. That's it, folks. Thanks a lot. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. Have a great evening. God bless.